Hello, welcome to the Blockmates podcast, first episode on the new channel, actually. In today's episode, we're going to get through the top headlines, everything you need to know that's been moving across the industry in the last few days. And given that it's been a few weeks since we last did this, while we've been moving the channels around, we're going to get through quite a lot that's happened in that time period. So we've had the Elon v. Trump fallout and what that meant for the market. We're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about the World War III between Iran and Israel and what that's meant as well, to a certain extent. We're generally going to talk about the bullish outlook for the industry as a whole. And given the movement on the stablecoin front and what it's looking like for adoption, there's a hell of a lot to dig into there. But we know that you find that stuff quite boring, so we'll keep it relatively light. We have a story from France with some lad being abducted, only to find out that he has XRP and being returned by the kidnappers. Justin's son is going public with Tron. Bybit are launching their own DEX, and we're talking about like why they may be doing that on Solana and what that means for the DEX space and the competition over there. And anything else that crops up throughout the conversation. So yeah, please like and subscribe and enjoy the episode. Hello, just a quick break in transmission to say thanks to Heavy D, aka Darius, and the Vertex team for sponsoring the Blockmates podcast and making this show happen. Vertex is a lightning fast order book DEX where you can trade spot, perps, and money markets with crazy levels of efficiency, no maker fees, and deep cross-chain liquidity. Plus, it's rapid like a centralized exchange while being secure as a decentralized one. So you can stay on chain and not have to worry about KYC or anything like that. You can even stake Vertex and earn rewards if that's your thing. So give them some bang for the buck and go and check it out at vertexprotocol.com and enjoy the rest of the episode. Good morning. Feels good to be back. First time on the new channel. Look who we've got. Gaz, Grant, I feel like I say look who we've got every time. How you doing, fellas?
All good, all good.
All good.
Sweet. So, first episode on the Blockmates podcast. We can't call it the Friday podcast anymore because it's a Wednesday that you're watching this. But look, we've pulled out all the stops, spent a fortune on this camera and this mic and stuff. So make sure you're liking and subscribing this video if you're watching. And you have to do it because if I have to say that out loud, then you have to at least like it because it just makes me want to crawl in a ball and fucking die. So it's been quite a few things go on since we were last on. Grant is now our permanent co-host, shall we say, with me and Gaz. Mike is just too busy knee deep in the ops, basically just, making shit happen, baby.
Wrangling the cattle.
Wrangling the cattle to do this every week. So yeah, how are we, fellas? It feels like there's a lot I could get through here, which I will in a minute. But first and foremost, what's going
on? Same old, really. I think it's just been a case of sitting through a lot of crypto volatility, but kind of feels like the market's primed to go higher, and just gotta take the few grey hairs that are coming on the chest and wait for things to resolve. I think it's been a bit of a crazy few weeks, I would suggest, since we last filmed one. But yeah, standard practice, volatile markets, and then Sailor just TWAPing in every single day.
Yeah, it's there's always the script writers are constantly writing some weird line into the simulation every single time we hit that weekly diagonal resistance on Bitcoin. They've ran out of bad situations, so they loaded the geopolitical FUD again, and it's every single time we're going to break out. It's like some fucking crazy world event happens, and I'm starting to kind of like ask questions about reality.
Right. So look, first and foremost, we're going to rattle through the first section of the pod. We're going to call this "What You Need to Know," and I'll probably change my mind on it by the time we next record. And I say that, but this is the first episode, and I'm in the States for the next 2 weeks, so you probably won't see me, at least on my fancy camera. But headlines, if you're here for the important stuff, first of all, and now we're not necessarily going to cover this, but just to make sure that you are aware of what's been going on in the industry in the past week or so, and then we'll get into everything that we've missed since we last recorded the pod. So we've got Trump's Truth Social files for a dual BTC and ETF. We've got Pump.Fun and its founder's X accounts getting suspended. Big Bald Brian Armstrong is meeting UK policymakers in London to discuss crypto. Vietnam legalizes crypto under a new digital technology law. JP Morgan files a JPMD trademark application for its digital asset platform. Japan's Metaplanet surpasses Coinbase in BTC holdings. Interesting. Circle's USDC goes live on World Chain. Eric Trump denies involvement in Tron's public venture, even though he's called himself the biggest fan of Justin Sun. So that affects the story that we'll be covering later. And Arthur Hayes says Circle's IPO is the start of a stablecoin mania bubble, which we will cover, but evidence suggests that you don't really love us talking about stablecoins too much, so we're not going to go too deep on that. But look, since we last spoke and recorded this, as the lads have said, we've missed quite a lot. We've had Elon versus Trump, which nuked the bags. Then we had World War III, again, potentially, which nuked the bags, which maybe or maybe isn't kicking off. I try to avoid the news. I know Gainsey's in a bunker somewhere in Tel Aviv, isn't he? As far as I understand. Hyperliquid, what more can I say? But yeah, what do you think, fellas? I know we touched on it briefly there. I've taken the view of like I've sort of been scooping every dip. But yeah, what do you think, ladsy? Is how are you allocated? Where do we go from here? Obviously, the strength of Hyperliquid is wild, but yeah,
fully allocated. To be fair, I think I even put some stables back on the table that I probably shouldn't have, but it is what it is.
He said he wasn't gonna. He said he wasn't gonna.
I'm just too bullish to not be heavily exposed, to be fair, and it has just felt like we're just waiting for a bit of all clear and things are going to absolutely turbo send, to be fair. They're just printing infinite amounts of money. Like you see those kind of headlines coming from China, the US can do the same, and obviously you don't want to dwell on the fact that war is never good. It does mean money is printed as well, which obviously is a side effect here. But I think in terms of like that geopolitical tension, it's never been like rewarding to investors to sell off the back of geopolitical news like that.
Yeah.
Like I think you have to obviously be in high conviction bags and just weather the storm. I think it'll just be a temporary blip, and a few months from now, we won't actually remember these times, to be honest with you. But that's kind of where I'm sat at the moment. Just weather the storm and blue skies ahead.
Yeah, pretty similar outlook, to be honest. Not to make that completely fucking boring, but yeah. So when everything started kicking off, fortunately, I was out on a walk, so I had to compress with everything. If I was at the desk, I'd have probably like panicked and sold something. Being out and about, Vinny, my little dog, goes missing, so I don't get back until like an extra hour later. Nice. But in that time, I've had time to like decompress and think like, right, what should I actually do here? so again, like guys, shouldn't have done it. Bought more stables in, sent them over to Hive, put them on a fresh wallet, and just slammed it in. And like, thankfully, at this 37, 38 range, so sitting quite pretty on that. Vinny's going to get a decent little bone at the weekend, thanks to his the decompression situation from him going missing.
Yeah, I sort of did a similar thing where it was actually the night that Elon was calling Trump a pedo, and I was watching my bags go to Hades, and I was sitting there, and it was about 10:30 at night, and I was like, oh fuck, do I just cut him? Do I just like, how bad is this going to get? How bad is this going to get worse? And I thought, no. I thought, like, shut your laptop. The bags that I've got open, like I'm bullish long term. So like, why would I be like worrying about this kind of in and out nonsense? But yeah, we don't need to dwell on it. We're all clearly in a similar position, aren't we? So what did you think of the Elon Trump back and forth?
Yeah, it was only gonna end in one way, wasn't it? Really, like, you've got two fucking egomaniacs that have like probably the self-restraint of maybe like a toddler, maybe like a 4 or 5 year old or something like that. So yeah, it was definitely only going to ever end one way. And then like the deleted tweets started coming out, and people have like trackers on Elon's deleted tweets when he started saying he's in he went to Epstein Island and shit like that. So
yeah. They're both world-class shit posters though, and they've both got mobile in hand, just ready to send the next one. It was just like, you're from like a professional comms background. Like, what does it look like if you're like a handler for people? Well, obviously not on that scale, because they're like the two most volatile people on the planet. But can anything actually be done?
No. It was the have a good day DJT. after he said he was on Epstein's Island for me. I was like, that will go down in history. I think if there's anyone in a comms PR position representing either of those two, then they've probably lost their mind a long time ago, especially over the last Trump term. But put it this way, I'm not envious of anyone in that position. But yeah, anyway, so look, all signs do point to, as we've said at the start of the pod, really, you can probably sense from us, and if by the time you're listening to this, we've started nuking again and we look quite foolish, well, I suppose that just makes for better viewing. But one thing that caught my eye as well was,
like they always do.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll let us know quite rightly. But we got like a standard chartered report as well that showed the doubling of corporate Bitcoin holdings in 2 months. Trump's treasury deal from the other week has been approved by the SEC. So there's just all sorts that suggest that we are moving on an upward trajectory. Not that we have yet quite seen an alt season. Whether we ever will is another question in itself outside of Hyperliquid. But yeah, I think that the first place that we want to start is the mass adoption of stablecoins for retail. And as I said, it's hardly the sexiest of topics, but it's an important one because it really does like show undeniably the adoption of like a kind of decentralized blockchain technology approach that is just not going anywhere. If you think about where we've been in the past 18 months, 2 years, even beyond that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rattle off some things and I'll cover them very loosely and then we'll use that as a point of discussion at the end. So we've had Apple, Twitter, Google and Airbnb all in early stage talks about stablecoin adoption. Walmart and Amazon are looking to launch their own USD-backed stablecoin. Uber is exploring stablecoins to cut down the cost of money saving globally. The Bank of America is working on a stablecoin both independently and in collaboration with industry players. Shopify merchants across 34 countries will now accept USDC as a payment. That's thanks to Stripe and Coinbase. France's SocGen is looking to launch a multi-dollar-backed stable. And the US stablecoin market could top $2 trillion by 2028, says the Treasury Chief. I'll read you that quote, actually. I believe that stablecoin legislation backed by US Treasuries or T-bills will create a market that will expand US dollar usage via these stablecoins around the world. I think 2 trillion is a very reasonable number. Yeah.
It aligns with the US's strategic goals. They need US Treasuries to be bought up. This is going to be a major participant in that deal there. So the future of the dollar is going to be digital one on crypto rails. It's become very apparent over the last couple of months, especially, and it seems like they're just trying to get this Genius Act through. Seems to have bipartisan agreement as well. So I can't see there being any problems. And you would imagine that obviously we're close to things here, but you'd imagine there'd be a big re-rating of many of the DeFi names we see today. There seems to be a dislocation between their valuations, and maybe when you look at like what's Circle trading at, like 28 bill or something, no revenue to shareholders. It's a boomer meme coin. And then you've got stuff on chain that does print fees and distributes it to holders. I think TradFi bros are going to like some of the bags here, if I'm being honest.
The thing is, right, because we're so in the weeds and this is literally what we do for a living, it's been so obvious to us for such a long time. Like the vast majority of our business is done in USDC, USDT transfers, people get paid in stablecoins. A lot of us live globally, distributed all over the planet, moving around, paying people globally and blah, 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 blah. We understand that is 10 times better, faster, cheaper. And when a technology does that, there is no way on earth you can have a legacy system that charges 2-3% that people don't see, but the merchants have to eat, right? So someone comes around and it's just like, do you want to wipe that out? Every single merchant on the planet will be saying yes. And then every single company that is, I don't know, doing hundreds of billions of revenue, then they don't have to also eat that fee going forward every single year. So it's a no-brainer. But what I've always struggled to kind of like come to terms with, we can feel like something isn't taken off because we're so in the eye of it. And then slowly but surely, like things start to fall into place. And it's probably like 18 months further than when we've recognized. Like when we're saying about like these DeFi protocols, yes, TradFi will be like, oh shit, that's incredible, and they definitely already are playing around with it. It's when do they actively want to start from a PR and public image and public perception perspective, start actively advocating for them. I'd argue it's probably another 18 months down the line. You're going to start seeing the stablecoin things. That's a Trojan horse into more complex products. You're going to start seeing tokenization of equities, commodities, probably currencies as well, come on chain. And then that's like, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? So just bide our time. And I think it'd be a pretty long haul, but I think the upside's definitely there if the revenues that we're speaking about are scalable. So like, can they scale to hundreds and then everyone's still getting paid out, I don't know, an attractive fee of 3, 4, 5, 6%? Because if the yield doesn't scale with the product as well, then that's obviously an issue and a non-starter for a lot of these people.
Yeah, it's what do you think about? Because I know you posted actually on LinkedIn the other day as well, didn't you, Grant? It was I believe the graph had come from. Yeah, unfortunately, but we have to play the game. I think the graph that you posted actually come from Bread, and it, obviously, where I'm going with this, don't you? That people say that the only product market fit that we have for crypto is stablecoins. Is there an argument to be made against that now? Can we just double click on that for a sec?
Yeah, I mean,
Teach you up for that one there.
For the listeners who haven't seen it, so Bread guy working at MegaReef, he created this really quite amazing graphic, really, and it was to do with revenue per employee. So think of all like the world's largest corporations, and like Nvidia, Meta, Amazon, like blah 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 blah. Insert anyone. By far and away, the top revenue generating per employee. First was Tether. The second one was Hyperliquid. The third one was Pumped Up Fun. And then slowly behind that was OnlyFans. So you've got a stablecoin issuer, a decentralized exchange, a pad, and then OnlyFans. And then the rest of them just fall off a cliff. So when there is this situation, you get like the likes of Jason Calacanis, who like crypto hasn't achieved anything in the last fucking 15 years. He's living on the fact that he's like an early investor in fucking Uber and Airbnb, and these companies that he's kind of like basically built his own career and his profile off the back of, and nowhere to be seen when it comes anywhere close to a lot of these protocols. So, and it's so different, isn't it? Like the fucking magnitude of that.
It's absolutely fucking crazy.
Corporate bloat on the chart.
That actually did proper numbers on LinkedIn. Like, I'm going to start posting motivational.
Oh, yeah, look at your post.
Going to start posting motivational fucking.
On LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm gonna proper lean into it.
How many texts did you get off non-crypto mates saying, actually, we have another go? Actually, right. Anyway, on to the fun stuff. So, right, basically, we had an incident in France in the past few days. Which I think France has taken the mantle at the minute as the crypto kidnapping capital of the world. It feels like every other day someone's getting pulled off the street and hiding in the back of a van and having fingers chopped off for ledgers and all this kind of shit. But essentially, some background here is there's a TikToker, this kid in France. He's got around 40,000 followers. And so as I understand it, this guy does quite a lot of bragging as far as like, his personal brand is built off the back of claiming clout, LARP, and trading. Yeah, essentially. So a load of blokes turned up at his gaff and said, "You're coming with us." Kidnapped him, and they said, "Right, we want a 50k ransom for your head." Now, what actually happened here is, I'll share my screen as I'll talk you through this story. What
I can't help laugh at this, by the way. So like, I'm not a horrible person, but this is just too funny.
So essentially, what's actually happened is it turns out the kid didn't actually have as much money as he told them he did, and they found out that he'd basically just been buying XRP from like, I don't know, like 5 years ago. When the kidnappers have found that out, they've weirdly actually felt sorry for him, sent him $1,000 in USDT, and sent him on his way. So this is the headline: XRP saves the day. Influencer released after kidnappers pity his wallet. So this 26-year-old crypto influencer and TikTok content creator was reportedly kidnapped in France last weekend. It was. And they basically demanded crypto, but they get XRP bags instead, which I like the way Ed has framed that one. So they demanded 50K, as I've said, and then they found out he'd been heavily invested in XRP since 2018, but had actually no liquid crypto available for a quick transfer. So in an incredible turn of events, these kidnappers have actually felt sorry for him and said, there's some money to actually go on your way. Go and open up a long on Hyperliquid.
Here's my ref code.
But like, as brutal as this is, because it is fucking scary, as three guys that are sitting doxed on camera and shit like this, do we need to talk about concerns around security and all that kind of shit? And you know where I'm going to take this, because like, or does this kid just sort of, no one deserves to be kidnapped, for God's sake, but what does this tell you about flexing online from a profitability point of view?
It's definitely not plus EV to be shouting about how much money you've got, especially if you live in France. I think they've had like 30 incidents this calendar year, numerous severed fingers. It's just, if you're in France, pivot to somewhere else, not the UK either. But yeah, I think it highlights the fact that these trading course bros are getting found out pretty swiftly, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that's what it is? Those sort of Instagram. Yeah.
Well, like if that's the flag you're putting up, like what kind of people are you going to attract? And if you're doing it in a like in your face, look what I have, look what you don't have kind of way, then like what signal is that putting up to people? Just so you know, all of us are extremely unprofitable for like the vast majority of our lives. So
yeah, I was going to say, just nothing to see here, nothing to see. But like what I found interesting about this as well is it's TikTok fame, I guess now infamy. We've had a look collectively at crypto TikTok, haven't we? It's horrendous, but like we often like have this conversation about there's a stark difference between crypto YouTube, crypto Twitter, and then crypto TikTok. Evidently, it is that maybe like part of the issue there, because all of the content that I see on TikTok has always been kind of weird nonsense like looping strategies, and this is how I bought a house to do, and it just doesn't really add up.
It's more like your passive income, like I used to sell Forex courses crowd. And that's the only, you got to think about it from like a scroll stop perspective, like what's going to stop people on their timeline. It's probably something like extremely fucking flash, or you're sat in a fucking Lamborghini. You've got like 1 second to hook people, particularly on TikTok. So that's probably why that kind of person only exists in that realm, because anywhere else, if they try to do that on Twitter, they get fucking destroyed. So it's like, yeah, I know. It's just, I suppose the platform encourages it a little bit.
Have you spent much time over there, guys? Crypto TikTok?
No, it's not my bag. The only thing is, my missus has got it, so I do get the irrelevant updates now and again. But not a lot of crypto stuff comes on there for me. Instagram is pretty funny because Dip Wheeler's managed to get himself wormed in over there.
Has he?
Generational bottom posts have come up on Instagram.
Unreal.
Right.
Probably says more about my algo, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather have your algo than mine if that's what it's throwing up. But look, another one here that obviously we've mentioned is this guy in China who has essentially he's lost like 6.9 million overnight. He has in quite a what would we say blast from the past type case. Really, he's bought a cold wallet off a Chinese TikTok variation of, so I understand, which actually like has like a feature, like a sort of TikTok shop similar to what we have over here. It's called like Douyin Shop. Mm-hmm. It's got like an e-commerce platform on it that you can, I'm probably murdering the pronunciation of that.
Racist.
Definitely. But essentially this guy has bought a cold wallet and then deposited close to 7 million quid on it, just to find out that it was immediately drained. And now we understand that the private key was actually compromised at creation. It wasn't a user error. Yeah, before I pull this up, what do you think of this? I mean, there's not really a great deal to say about that, to be honest, is there? But it's where do you start with that? I have quite a lot of questions about this.
I was going to say, if I was shipping that much money onto a hardware device and finding out where the headquarters is of Ledger and purchasing it physically with my own two hands, there's no way you're buying discounted products off TikTok.
Why is he
poor, bro?
He's got 7 million quid. Why is he fucking penny pinching on a $50 ledger? Like something about this doesn't add up. Is that I don't know.
It could be a tax thing.
Ooh. Fair. That's a shout, to be fair. This is the new lost my key in the button accident.
Or it could be like this is how I get money out of a quite controlling regime and quite
given
authoritarian
took
part
place.
of the world.
Yeah. Interesting this. The firm emphasised that scammers use the lure of a lower price to bait victims into trusting the compromised devices.
Fucking millionaire.
The case was also
multi-millionaire.
He's a multi-millionaire. Yeah, there's something doesn't quite add up. The case was also shared by an ex-user named Hella, a former employee under Bitman co-founder Jihan Wu. Hella said the victim was a close friend who had frantically called late at night to report the incident. Describing the device as carefully designed hot trap, Hella claimed that the stolen funds were quickly funneled through a network linked to Huai Wang, a conglomerate based in Cambodia that includes services like... Some of these pronunciations are killing me, by the way. Like, yeah, if you're listening on Spotify, this tweet is entirely in Mandarin. Yeah, basically, these platforms are previously linked to illicit financial activity. So something doesn't feel right about this, as you're saying, Grant. However, I have read quite a lot about this kind of scamming shit out of Cambodia as well, which makes me think that
a lot of casinos in Cambodia as well.
Yeah, it's also a very valid point. It's not your first rodeo, is it? Yeah,
definitely not.
So what's the verdict on this one?
If
is he actually being rugged, or
if I knew he wouldn't get like deplatformed for using the hard R, I'd use it right now. Because that's just like fucking stupid if you ask me. But I don't know. It's some kind of like financial Darwinism, isn't it? Like
the lemmings are dying.
Yeah. It just doesn't. It seems just insane to me that someone would have that amount of coin and to be trying to penny pinch.
It serves people right for being fucking stingy. I hate stingy people.
Yeah, unless it was just pure naivety and he bought it out of just thinking.
Maybe. I don't like. Do we know what it was that was lost? Like, if it was Bitcoin, I'd probably be like, maybe less so. Maybe if it's like his new money, he's made it all on pump, then he could quite well be a first cycler that's made a very, very costly mistake.
I mean, does he own a Bored Ape?
Yes,
I guarantee there's a 150% chance that he owns a Bored Ape.
I would agree with that as well. No, it just specifies digital assets, which to me also little bit stinky. Like, well, is that what we're telling? Is that the public official line? No, just digital assets. That's what they were. They were just digital. Yeah. Right. So now back to the.
So if you want to buy a Ledger, there's a link to our TikTok shop in the description.
Yeah. We don't make money on that. I wish we did. So back to the land of the free, home of the brave. Is that the right way around? I should know. I'm married to an American, but Justin Tron has been making waves. So basically, Tron is going public now. Essentially, this is being allowed to happen because there's been a pause in the SEC's investigation. Fraud investigation, may I add, into Sun and his like corresponding companies. So he's basically taken advantage of this fact and he's merging Tron with one of his already NASDAQ limited companies called SRM Entertainment. Now, what he's done here is it's a reverse merger, which has been facilitated by a boutique investment bank, which is actually headquartered in Trump Tower, funny enough. And I know at the top of the episode, we said that Eric Trump has distanced himself for this, but there is a little bit more to the story. So how a reverse merger works essentially is it's when a private company acquires a publicly traded company, so the incoming private one can go public without an IPO because it inherited stock listing and trading status. Now, obviously, this carries like some usual regulatory scrutiny and risk with potential shareholders being diluted and whatnot, but it's crime season, baby, and anything goes. And actually, to add to this as well, the SRM stock rallied 67% before the news was announced. Is it just?
He can do what he wants.
What are we doing here, lads? Yeah. What?
I don't even think.
What are we doing?
I don't even
here?
think he's a real person. I think he's like purely AI, or he's in prison and he's just AI generated. Like all his pitches, he's got like 25 fingers and shit. He probably needs like kidnapping off a couple of those French people, getting back down to like 5 digits on each hand.
Yeah, to see. Let's see what you've really got.
He's like multi-billionaire though.
But right, so crypto entrepreneur Justin Sun's blockchain platform Tron is preparing to enter the public markets in the US following a pause, as I've said. So Tron incorporated to launch with a 210 million in token reserves, and the Trump administration's crypto pivot opens some doors. So the reverse merger comes on the heels of the US crypto policy shift, as we've said. So back in 2023, the SEC was charging Sun and Tron with offering unregistered securities, which we know all too well, and alleged market manipulation, which is even funnier when you talk about the rallying in the SRM stock price. But in early 2024, the regulator and Sun filed the joint motion to pause proceedings and pursue a resolution, a development that followed the Trump administration's vocal support for relaxed crypto regulation. Since then, Sun has bolstered ties with the Trump camp, reportedly contributing $75 million to World Liberty Financial, which is obviously the Trump-affiliated crypto company. That platform recently launched its first stablecoins on the Tron blockchain, with this public listing on the horizon. Tron's path forward appears closely tied to the political and regulatory dynamics shaping the next phase of crypto adoption in the US. So as I've said, though, one of the headlines that we've woken up to this morning is that Eric Trump has denied any involvement with that, but said he is a huge fan of him. So yeah, what do you think of the whole Tron thing, setting aside the fuckery that we've obviously just covered? If you do some digging on DeFi Llama, Tron is always a weird one for me. Can we just...
It's one of those assets you don't want to hold, do you, yourself? You don't want to hold it because you might wake up to a minus 99% candle, or Interpol have arrested him, something crazy could happen.
He's actually dead.
But it facilitates a whole lot of USDT TRC20 style movements. And I do know from personal experience on my travels here, speaking to people in the kind of poker scene in Southeast Asia, they all move their funds USDT on Tron. That's just what they all do that already. So it's kind of got muscle memory ingrained for a lot of people. So to be fair, this probably isn't a bad chain to want to acquire. I think a lot of people are just used to using it at this point, but it seems like the kind of Trump's loophole department has been working absolute overtime here to pull this one off.
Yeah, where I think it really gained traction was, and we'll blame Vitalik for this, but when Ethereum gas fees were just prohibitively expensive, what happened was stablecoin payments got redirected to, I suppose, cheaper, lesser used chains, and then Tron, being a fixed fee of $1 per stablecoin transaction, just really like solidified itself as the payments network. But what's interesting now is you're seeing the likes of Plasma, which is a Bitcoin sidechain that is free USDT transfers, that is backed by USDT Zero, which is obviously a subsidiary of Tether. So you're seeing that, and that's like we're going to steal that kind of mindshare usage of people. Like in Southeast Asia or Middle East, where a lot of where Tron's used, if people are going to save $1 per transaction, they're going to do it. If it's going to be free on Plasmillion, they're going to do it. And then there's a couple of others that are going to do like a similar sort of tether alignment style chain. But as I say, there was $1 billion of capital committed towards Plasma recently on that Echo pre-commit. Doesn't mean that they've raised $1 billion. They've had $1 billion worth of capital committed. That's going to accrue points, and then pro rata. That's going to be, I suppose, like access credits to the actual raise, where it'll be, I think, sell 50 million at 500 mil valuation. So, yeah, I think his days. He probably knows that his days are numbered with regards to it being the chain of choice of Tether de facto running out with Plasma and a couple of others. So he has to do something. But he's the master of mindshare. Like the announcement of the original announcement of the announcement is just insane.
Yeah. Genius ploy. This is the story in question, by the way, which I think was like out last week. The Plasma 1 billion deposit cap fills in 30 minutes. What's behind the XPL token frenzy, I believe. Is that right, Grant? So if you want to kind of read further on this, so Plasma has once again captured attention across the crypto market after doubling its stablecoin deposit cap to $1 billion, only to see that cap maxed out in under 30 minutes. So yeah, you can just check this up on blockmates.com via the news site if you do want to read more. Ed did cover that. We didn't have this one on the agenda today. But yeah, interesting where that one goes with Tron, because as I say, it's just not somewhere that I would ever be.
He's not real.
He's not real. It's not real. Maybe he's even corrupted, the DeFi Llama guys, which are uncorruptible, to sort of be blagging that sort of thing. I don't know. I'm not going to start surmising. I'm joking, by the way. I'm absolutely 100% fucking joking there.
If he wants to buy blocmates for like $500 million, he can do it though.
Yeah, true. Yeah. The latest in the line of centralized exchanges, obviously wanting to try and get a piece of the action here, as they always have, as we know, is Bybit, obviously, and they are announcing what they've called ByReal, which is the DEX. They are the standard talk that we get with these sort of things. Pun very much intended. It's designed. It's not just another DEX. It's designed to bring elements of centralized exchanges, deep liquidity, with all the sort of things that we love about a DEX, non-KYC, DeFi native transparency, all this kind of shit. And look, I like Bybit and I like Benzu. I think that with the hack that went down, when was that, last year or something? It was well covered.
That was like last week, wasn't it? It wasn't last year.
Was it? It must have been. I don't even know. That was a clinic in professional communications and crisis management, as anyone that's in the space has talked about. But yeah, launching on Solana. I'll pull up the story and we'll riff on this for a bit, because I want to know what you think of this one. So crypto exchange Bybit is entering the Solana ecosystem with a new DEX called ByReal. As I've said, that's very much real. So Benzu said the testnet is going to go live towards the end of this month, June 30th, with then mainnet launched expected in Q3. Aiming for CEX DEX synergy on Solana, ByReal, described as in the official announcement and follow-up post, is not positioning itself as a traditional DEX. Instead, Zoo stated that the platform is designed to offer what he called CEX-grade liquidity with DeFi native transparency, as I've already said, aiming to blur the lines between centralized exchanges and decentralized protocols. I mean, yeah. If you well, look, you don't. If you're in this space, if you spend even 5 minutes in crypto on crypto Twitter, you probably know what the rest of this story reads like. I don't really need to read this out to you, as far as the quotes and the USP that they're projecting. So, what do we think? Is this, as we say, we like Bybit.
So the RFQ thing's quite interesting. So request for quote. So someone submits an order, then it's going to effectively source whether that order can be fulfilled on-chain, so by the nearest point of liquidity, or it's going to be getting sourced by some solver, which is going to act as like an off-chain element of that specific order. And it's going to be like a blend in between the two. The issue being is Solana, and it has a little bit of an issue when it comes to having a club. All right, so Zeta Markets, they've been through it all. They tried to build it. They've been every which way. They've been building for like the last 3 or 4 years. They are now going to go and build a network extension, so basically an L2 on Solana, because they don't think Solana, in its current state, side might get fixed with app-specific sequencing in a few months. But someone who's been building a perp sticks on Solana for the past few years is like basically throwing in the towel and saying, we're actually going to build an L2 on top of Solana that is actually built for purpose. And then we can actually handle the execution needed. So we don't get these drastic fee spikes. Like imagine you can't actually slam an order through when like a big whale is about to get liquidated on your platform. Priority fees are a nightmare. You get this toxic taker problem. So I'm not really convinced. I'll try it. I feel like everyone, they're kind of accepting the fact that new users now are going on chain first for the likes of Phantom and like other really, really good wallets that are enabling that to happen. I think the writing's on the wall. They've seen Hyperliquid stealing like 25% of their daily perps volume. They need to actually do something that's going to be a little bit of an antidote towards that. But what they don't realize is there's a drastic amount of community buy-in that contributes towards why Hyperliquid is successful. And then if you get this big swinging centralized exchange, which I like, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really have the same packaging and positioning as something that's been grassroots. Everyone eats. Like it's been fair opportunity and fair access. So yeah, you can't just like create a product and expect it to kind of work just because it's, you know, something similar to like an up and coming competitor, you know. So that's my kind of like takes on it, but we'll see. Like I think everyone's going to be doing this in a couple of months anyway. So
what do you think though about what does that say for the landscape on Solana? Because I think again towards the back end of last year, was it earlier this year? I don't even know. Jupiter. We talked a lot, didn't we, about the potential of the Jupiter ecosystem. Then it got involved in all of the carry on with the Vape Cabal and Thread Guy and all the kind of shit that they'd been accused of there. What does that do? If anything else, is there a potential for BuyReal to come in and maybe steal some of that real estate from Jupiter?
I think Jupiter's number 2, if I'm not mistaken, on chain perps dexes, but like if you're trading perps on Jupiter, you're a fucking idiot. If I'm being completely honest. You just like, because it's just shit. It's just like complete shit. There's only one place to trade perps on chain, and it's Hyperliquid, and that's because of its architecture, which they built from scratch, with the demand for high frequency trading in mind first. You can't then go to a network that is like siloed. This is the network that you can build with the building blocks that we actually have on the network, and then try and like reverse engineer something to fit what's available. Hence why Zeta are looking, can we go and build on top of Solana in like an L2 style fashion? Yeah. But then bear in mind that we control the execution, we control how it's settled, and we optimize that precisely for 3 millisecond block times that you can actually post. It's going to be basically free. So you kind of like rivaling what a centralized exchange would be kind of looking at from a latency and throughput perspective. So I don't know the architecture of Apex, but I'd assume the vast majority of that liquidity is on chain, and then they've realized RFQ and intents are drastically needed to actually get them to that next step. I think that is a bit of a stopgap. Issue being, you've got to ask who the solvers are for each specific order, and I guarantee it's just like 2 market makers that are on like the books at Bybit. So every single order that comes through, yeah, you might be able to get a perps. You might be able to get a specific order open, but who's the counterparty to that? The counterparty is probably someone who's going to give you a fucking terrible price, or they're going to be hedged to the tits on Bybit in and of itself. So Bybit's winning either way. And you just have to see what the actual funding would be like. You'd have to actually see what the execution would be like, the prices would be like, culminates into why a perps dex should be. And if it's not like significantly better, faster, and cheaper than Hyperliquid, then it's not going to do anything. And if it doesn't have the architecture to actually set up HFT or allow the market makers who drive the vast majority of the volume for the platform to come in and be profitable, or people want to be satisfied with the specific trades and execution, then I feel like they do know that. And there's the Hyperliquid dashboard. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. It might be called Hyperflows. Hyperliquid's beginning to steal a lunch, like 25% of the volume in open interest. It's like 5 or 6% for Binance, but it's all moving in the right direction. So I think the writing's on the wall.
I do not have enough Hyperliquid.
And then
Yeah, I just opened up my. I was like, oh fuck.
Got that ledger from TikTok got up and on screen.
Yeah. Just ordered one from eBay. Actually, I'm picking it up from a guy around the corner. I'm sure it's legit.
Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, so we'll leave it there. First episode in the books. So as I say, I'm headed out to the States next week for permissionless. We'll figure out a plan, what we do for the episode, to be honest, because the lads are in Asia while I'm in the States. But thanks for listening. Please do subscribe to the newsletter and like this, leave a comment, subscribe. You know, I fucking hate asking you to do that, but I have to. So please just do it, or unsubscribe and don't watch it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather you just do that. But Grant, Gaz, thanks, lads. I'll see you on the next one.